and welcome to another glimpse of growth with Dr. Dale. Good morning. Welcome to you. Today is Wednesday, May 13th, and we're moving right along here. So I wanted to, I see, I wasn't planning on coming in here, but I wanted to come in here. That's why it's looking like it's like last minute because I felt like I really wanted to talk about this stuff that went down with Spirit Airlines and some lessons that we can take away from it. And I want to start with I was reading the Tampa Bay Times, and I was reading and I saw this story of about one of the employees. So for those that do not know, Spirit Airlines is done. It's done. Yeah. Spirit Airlines has been in business from what I read 35, 34 years. 34 years. I have to Google that again to make sure, but 34 years. And I want to take a few moments here to talk about something that recently, this happened when May 2nd. Yeah, May 2nd. So about a week ago or so. And honestly, this carries a lot of lessons and weight and pain and sadness. But let me preface this by saying I'm not a fan. I've Most of my family members and myself have never really been a fan of Spirit, but I've been on Spirit, and our experiences have not been really good. But other people have had good experiences with Spirit. So that's all I got to say about that. And as many as you may know by now, that Spirit Airlines abruptly shut down operations, leaving not a few hundred people, thousands, leaving thousands of employees without jobs, and almost overnight, some of them. Almost overnight, right? Not, almost overnight and without any official notice. So I wanted to come here and talk about it because, man, this is such it's sad, it sucks, it's frustrating. And but then kind of looking at the reframe, right, we can get some lessons from this. So we can get some lessons from this. And being with my being in human resources for over 17 years, from all the way from the front desk all the way to head of HR, and seeing these kinds of workplace employer employee blast in public like that, it just shows you so that not all that glitters is gold, and that there's so much going on inside of these workplaces that's that we don't even know, and that employees are going through, and managers are going through, and people are going through things. And what are we doing about it, right? So I wanted to talk about one of those 17,000 plus employees that lost their jobs from Spirit. One of those employees' name is Donald Dean Zollers. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And he worked in Spirit Airlines as a maintenance controller. So making sure that the airlines, from with the technicians under him, and he was a manager. And so making sure that the airlines were fixed and they were maintained and they had everything that they need. That was his job. And he had just finished doing a full week of making sure those planes were safe, fixing them, the ones that needed fixing. And he was definitely looking forward to having a restful weekend, up here and I'm in Florida, Florida, you guys, South Florida. And this particular employee I'm talking about, Donald, he is in St. Cloud, which is, a few 60,000 miles near close to Orlando, Florida. And he previously worked at the Miramar location, but going back to him, right? Kind of sharing his story, kind of, because we listen to these stories and we hear them, we're like, oh, that's sad, and bam, we keep moving on, right? But these are people's lives. And if the shoe was on the other foot and it was you, oh, moving on wouldn't be so quick, right? Moving on wouldn't be so quick. So Donald hears this around 7 a.m. He checks his emails, right? And he sees an email from his longtime employer, Spirit Airlines, informing him that his source of income, effective immediately, is no more. Just like that. And it didn't only end his job, it also ended health insurance for him and his wife. And for in case I didn't say it earlier, Donald is a 63-year-old man. 63. Think about that. So it's Donald, his wife. His wife's name is Lydia, and she has Parkinson's disease. I'm not making this up. This is a real employee story from one of those employees that got terminated from Spirit Airlines. And his wife has Parkinson's disease, and so with Parkinson's disease, you have to you have to do medications, you have to do those constant doctor visits, and the insurance was helping him with that. But do you know what happened? You know how much the cost of the insurance? Of the medication, $6,000 a month. $6,000 a month. He has no idea how he's going to pay for this. If only he could have cashed in those 700 hours of PTO. 700 hours. 700 hours. Where's my calculator? 700. If he could have cashed them in, it would have surely helped him to pay for his wife Parkinson's medication. 700. 700. He had 700 PTO hours and now lost because Spirit Airlines, they're not going to pay him for it. And he's praying that he gets his last 2 weeks paycheck. So apart from you, as for some of you out there that may have had flights scheduled for Spirit Airlines, and you're like, you lost your ticket, whatever that amount was, 300, 400, 500, 200, 300. Donald over here and his wife can't pay for an insurance that the health insurance was covering what he was working at Spirit, $6,000, and what are they going to do? Right? So kind of bringing it all into perspective. More than 2,500 of those employees were here in Florida. More than 2,500. So Donald thinks he says, I think we have enough money to be able to get by for the next 2 months. You imagine? So I show you all of that, and I say Donald's story to show you that we can gather some lessons from this. You as a leader, we need to gather some lessons from. And when I say leader, I'm not only talking about leader of people, I'm saying a leader of your own career. Of your own career. And you have to take your eyes not only, and I know the news can be a lot and it's a lot going on, but you have to You have to take your eyes not only off of you pay attention to the news as much as you can, but you need to pay attention to the trends that are happening. The trends. These employees got there. Some employees found out on social media that Spirit was going out of business. Some employees found out the news alert on social media through emails last minute. People in the world knew way before some of those 17,000 employees. And while my heart breaks for those people that, and your heart most likely as well breaks for those employees and their families, there's also there's some lessons, career lessons inside this entire moment that we can kind of gather and see how we can take it forward, right? Because sometimes the signs are there way before the ending arrives. Spirit had, for years, you've been hearing bankruptcy filings, route cuts, layoffs, financial issues, public news instability, merger happening, not happening, like for years. This is not new. Me as an outside public, I've been hearing for years, like, oh, Spirit is not doing good, but yet they kept on going. And yet many people, so this is me, I don't work for Spirit, but there are these 17,000 people that did work for Spirit, right? They've been hearing this, they're inside the organization, and I'm sure they're closer to what we heard in the public versus what they heard, right? And yet many people emotionally attached to the idea stayed. What do you think that is? They stayed at that company. Why do you think they stayed? Why would you stay? I want to hear from you guys. Let me know. Welcome in. Sexy1566. Welcome, Iskina. Welcome to A Glimpse of Growth. Just kind of gleaming some lessons that this unfortunate closing of Spirit Airlines, and even though I really didn't like them, people worked there. 17,000 people. That's not 700. That's 17,000 employees lost their job. So my question to you, why do you think, I'm sure some employees left, right? No doubt. But why do you think those 17,000 stayed? Or maybe they were looking and they couldn't find anything. Remember, we said Spirit has been unstable for quite some time. So maybe they thought it was going to turn around, right? Maybe that, oh, it's just gossip. It's the people always talking. That's what they always say. And they didn't leave. They didn't leave. Those employees did not leave. I am sure some employees left, but 17,000 others stayed. That's something to think about. So I remember coaching 3 particular individuals. They came to me, they're like, Dr. Dale, it's time for me to leave my job because 1, I'm not happy, 2, I have issues with the boss, and 3, I am not sure there's a future for me here. I had 3 individuals that came to me, and I remember them distinctly over the past 2 years. And when they came and they said that, I was like, okay, we sat down and we created a plan, right? Created a plan for them to exit. And when it came down to step 1, step 2, step 3, we had that plan for 3 months, you guys. And do you know, neither one of these 3 individuals I'm thinking about, these 3 clients I'm thinking about, none of them left their job. Going back to this point right here that I'm talking about with these 17,000 employees that did the same thing as these other three employees, maybe it will turn around. That's what they said, right? May I'm comfortable. I'm okay. Let me just see how it goes. How long are you going to see how it goes before you make a decision? And I'm like Medea. I'm like Medea. I'm gonna get you before you get me. I want to make sure that I'm covered. And let's look at it from the standpoint of, let me make sure that my family is provided for. Let me make sure that I can pay my bills tomorrow. Let me make sure that I'm taking care of my own and I'm holding it down, and that I have a 6-month plan or a 3-month plan or whatever it is that you decide when you decide to leave your job, right? Even though research shows that when employees get ready to leave, one, the last person they tell is their manager, and two, they don't have a plan. They just leave. That's what research shows. Employees do not plan to leave. Most employees, right? Most employees do not plan to leave their jobs. They just leave. They don't tell anybody unless they tell like a coworker or something that they're close to. And they definitely don't tell the manager, and the manager finds out until it's too late, right? So these 17,000 employees stayed. These three clients that I'm talking about stayed, and they stayed because they thought it was going to get better. They were too comfortable. They, whatever the reason is, I don't know what the reason is, and I'm not going to even begin to kind of put it on there, but just putting it out there. Think about you hearing rumblings in your company right now that a merger is going to happen, or you know that there is three of your role and you don't have a good relationship with the manager. Chances of that manager keeping you on the team, especially if it's already affecting your performance, maybe you should have a plan B, right? And to think that way, and to think that things are going to come around, and to think that, oh, I'm going to wait because things may get better and I'm comfortable here. Honestly, that's a human thing. That's fine. You can do that, because people don't stay. Research, for the most part, people don't stay just for the jobs, don't stay at jobs for the money. They stay because of familiarity. They stay because of fear of change. They stay because of routine. They stay because of loyalty to this particular manager, loyalty because I love what I do. They stay because I hope it gets better. They stay because comfort. They stay because they identify with this organization and with the people that they known for all the years that they've been at the company. Hope is not a strategy. It sounds good, but it's not a strategy when you're talking about real life, especially today. Miss B, good morning. Thank you for stopping by. Hope is not a strategy. Sometimes we see the signs and refuse to move because movement feels scary, right? You have to call it what it is. You have to figure out, sit with it and see, why did you decide to stay at that job? Why are you staying in that relationship? Why are you deciding to not move? And this, you can't say because I want guaranteed paycheck. Those 17,000 people thought they had guaranteed paycheck too. They didn't. One day they woke up and bam. And this doesn't just apply to jobs, right? It applies to relationships. It applies to leadership roles. It applies to businesses. It applies to environments. It applies to habits. It applies to seasons of life. Like, it applies to todo. Todo. Sometimes the emotional attachment to what to that we have to that particular thing, it blinds us to what it actually is. Karen Cohen, Esquina, good morning. Welcome. So here's some lessons I think that we can, here's some lessons I'm gleaming from this that I have observed. So these three individuals that I talked about earlier that I code that came to me for coaching to leave their job and to create a path for a new one and how to transition into that new one, they didn't leave the job until the job left them. And when they finally decide to wake up, when the job decided to tell them that this was their last day, they were even more mad. You know why? Because they know they should have moved before. They know they should have made that move way from months ago. Months ago. They didn't have to wait. They could have got ahead of it. They saw it coming. They said, okay, let me get some help to help me move and kind of transition into this new role. And what do you think? What happened? Right when they're about to pull the trigger and move and leave the job, they stayed because they got scared. They've been in the job for years. They love the people they work with. But the lessons that I'm gleaming from this unfortunate Spirit Airlines just shutting down like that is that the first lesson is pay attention to the patterns. I said this earlier. Suzanne Winborn, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to A Glimpse of Growth. Pay attention to the patterns. One bad quarter, people can have a bad quarter. People can have two bad quarters, three bad quarters, a year of bad quarter, and repeated instability. That's information. That's it's telling you, hey, let me know what's going on. Let me see. It's repeating itself. That's a pattern. That's a trend. So put that, plant that in the back of your mind to do something with that later on. You're like, oh, this happened again? They closing down that location over there? Why? Oh, they closing down another one? Oh, but nobody has said anything. Nobody called a meeting. Nobody gave us information. Oh, you start paying attention. You start paying attention to the trends, which is why I said I know the news can be inundating, but if you are working for an organization, you want to know what's going on in that organization internally and especially publicly, externally, right? So the second point, the second lesson here is don't ignore emotional denial. Do not ignore. What do I mean by that? Sometimes deep down, we know something is up. Like, stop playing games. You know when something is off, something is wrong, something just doesn't feel right, something your gut tells you, that last manager meeting, they never asked for this before. Why are they asking for it now? Why did all of those people in suits just appear here at 6 o'clock in the evening on a Friday? I don't know those people. Oh, well, that's telling you something. Pay attention to it. Sometimes deep down, we know. You know when something is off. But emotionally, what happens? We don't accept it. Oh, that's nothing. Oh, that's not my business. No, it's not your business, but it is your business if you work there. Those 17,000 people thought it wasn't their business. And I don't know their personal situation. God help each and every single one of them. The example I gave of, the employee Donald, 700 PTO hours gone unused. 700. 700. I said this before. Where's my calculator? Math is not my strong suit, you guys, but English is. Let me do this calculation right quick. 700 hours. That's 87 days. That's almost 3 months. Almost 3 months of days he could have collected for himself or get cashed out so he could pay for his wife Parkinson's disease medications. You're at a job, you got hours, you got PTO hours. Take your PTO. Either take the time, and if they pay out, then you do a little bit of both. Cash it out. Cash out some, go on vacation for some. But do not sit on your PTO. Donald, 700 hours. 700 hours he worked at Spirit Airlines. That's very unfortunate. The third lesson we can glean from this is career ownership matters. No company, no matter how big and how small and how wide and how beautiful, can guarantee permanence. You need to keep learning. You need to keep your resume up to date. You need to keep networking. You need to keep building relationships. You need to keep building skills, capitalizing on your skills, whatever your expertise is. And you need to keep preparing yourself. But in the kind of season we're in right now, you need to be prepared. You need to be ready. You need to be ready. Your career is your responsibility. Excuse me. Your career is your responsibility. It's not the company's responsibility to guide your career. They can assist, they can aid and help you. Your manager can help you build out what your career path looks like at this particular job. When you're in this role, okay, if you want to level up and move up to another position, what does that look like, and what position is that, and how it ties back to your end goal, right? But it is your responsibility to take ownership of your career. It's not the company, it's not your boss. And I pray that not like these 17,000 employees that overnight lost their job, that been with Spirit for years. I heard another story on NPR yesterday with a gentleman that was there at Spirit Airlines for 10 years. 10 years. And he said he didn't know what he was going to do. He said he's still in shock. He can't believe that it happened. This happened on May 2nd. Today is May 13th. And he been there so long, he don't know where to go from here. He's still trying to grapple. Now he has to and pray to God that he gets their last paycheck so that he can have something to keep moving forward and to help him start getting looking for jobs and whatnot, looking for another job. This is no joke. This is people's livelihood. Like the Donald that I was telling you about, he said to the Tampa Times that he said that he has no idea how he was going to pay for his wife Parkinson's medication. $6,000. That's 3, 4 times rent in some cases. The fourth lesson that we can glean from this is loyalty shouldn't cost you awareness. It should not. What do I mean by that? Loyalty is beautiful. It's great to be loyal to something and someone. That's wonderful. But blind loyalty can become dangerous. Blind loyalty can become dangerous in any situation. You can't, blind loyalty can become so dangerous. You want to pretend that it doesn't exist, it's not happening. It's not happening. So, what are you doing? I know that some certain generations in the workplace, they're like, people, these employees are lazy. They're not loyal to you. You can be loyal, but you can't be blind loyal because it becomes dangerous. If you become so loyal to that organization or to that manager that you forget to take charge of your own career, that's a bad move. That move you will regret because unfortunately, in this case of Spirit Airlines, 17,000 people, you could say, like the guy that was on NPR yesterday, he's been there for 10 years. He was loyal. He was loyal. And unfortunately, a lot of them, not saying his particular case, a lot of them hope that it would get better. And again, we said hope is not a strategy, right? And I pray that they find something soon, but Spirit is, this didn't happen overnight. And this is what happens as well with burnout, right? Burnout doesn't happen overnight. It's a trickle, slow, slow drip. It's a staying 16 hours here, not sleeping enough here, sending out that email that's screaming at someone there, disrespecting someone there, taking 2 hours sleep here. You are slowly burning yourself out. So sometimes the way I see it is that workplaces are like a house with cracks. You know, you seen those cement houses and they have cracks in the walls. They slowly forming. They start at the sometime at the ceiling, on the wall. At first, people, you notice these cracks. You're like, oh, it's a crack. But then you're convinced. We convince ourselves, oh, it's nothing. It's probably nothing. That crack is nothing. Oh, it's nothing. It's not. It's gonna be fine. It's been like that for years. Then the leak starts. And it's no fun when the leak starts, right? It's no fun. Then slowly the pieces, over time, the pieces begin to, the paint chips starts to fall. But because collapse doesn't happen right away or immediately, people normalize, we tend to normalize the warning signs until one day, like May 2nd, 2026, at 7 a.m., when Donald looked at his email and saw that email from his boss that told him the ceiling has finally caved in. And then we say, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this is happening to me. When in reality, The signs were there. And again, I know Donald is 63, starting over and getting another job somewhere else. That may have been really unrealistic for him. And I pray that he finds something and get the help that he needs. The signs were speaking long before the collapse arrived, right? That's reality testing. And I talked about this very much in depth last week on my podcast about reality testing and the lens that you are looking at that situation. Make sure you're looking at it logically and not emotionally traumatized, experience skewed, because that's leadership awareness. And that's why emotional intelligence matters. Because emotionally intelligent, healthy people don't react to the collapse. They pay attention to the patterns way before the collapse happens. And that's what happened here. A lot of people, unfortunately, not I don't know exactly what their situation was, but 17,000 of them thought everything was, they had a job the next day, but they didn't. Loyalty is beautiful again, but blind loyalty can be dangerous, especially in situations like this. The last lesson here from this Spirit Airlines situation is don't wait for crisis to prepare. Don't do it. Don't do it. Strong leaders and professionals prepare before emergencies arrive. When you call 911 and that those responders show up, they are showing up prepared to whatever the situation is. That's what you and I should be doing. That's what you should be doing. You should be prepared. And the first lesson I mentioned was watching the patterns, being vigilant, seeing what's happening, not turning a blind eye. It's not your business, but if you're working in that company, it's all your business, especially as you prepare for your exit, right? If you're going to plan to stay there, make sure you know what's going on in the company. And people, the leaders and what is shared and not shared, if you're paying attention, you can figure out what's going on. You can figure out what's going on. I've had this friend of mine that had to terminate 10 employees for the holidays last year. And when she had to sit down and terminate all of these employees, the pressure of that alone, right? And these are employees that she has groomed, that she has helped, she was there for them. And she was just so sad that she had to do this and sit across from them and share this with as 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 best she could, with all holding in her emotions and how she really felt about the situation. But each and every single one of them thanked her. Some of them did not, but each and one of them understood the situation that she was, when she was giving them the bad news of having to terminate them. Her leaders wanted to wait until days before to terminate these employees. She said, no way, no how. She gave them a month's notice and fought for them to get at least a 2 weeks package, severance package. But she fought for that tooth and nail. And those 10 employees, instead of waiting, instead of getting notified 3 days before it was time for them to have their last paycheck, she gave them a whole month notice and gave them something in the end, as best she could. I don't even know. I can't even begin to tell you what Spirit Airlines internally what was happening, what was going on, and how abruptly they just ended these 17,000 people and their careers without little to no notice. So, this last lesson, number 5, don't wait for the crisis to prepare. Look at the trends, look at what's going on, keep your resume up to date, stay in the know. And I know being aware, I mean, staying ahead of the news and seeing what's going on, it can get, it's a lot. I know, I know. But if you turn on that, if you turn on that no, your news network, whoever you're getting your news from, at least once or twice a week, so you can be aware and know what's going on. But most of all, we in organization, employees in organization, you see what's going on. Stop denying the emotional, ignoring the emotional, what's showing up emotionally. You know that manager said that thing that made you, hmm, why did he say that? He doesn't even talk to me, but he looks distressed himself. Hmm, he's telling you something. If that made you raise and you're like, okay, and now all these people are showing up here on a Friday in these suits and stuff, and is something going on? Don't ignore those things. Take ownership of your career. It's your career. It's not the company's. It's your responsibility to take ownership of it. Okay? So that's number 5. And I wanted to come in here and share because this is just it just it's so much pain, right? And just looking at Donald's story and how a 63-year-old man now has to go find another job and find a way to pay for his wife Parkinson's medications of $6,000 monthly, something the insurance was covering from Spirit Airlines, and how Donald lost his 700 PTO hours that he will not be able to cash out, and he cannot do, which ends up being 87 days, almost 90 days of him not being able to take vacation. Sometimes the ending shocks people, even though the warning signs were whispering for years. So I'll leave you with this, a question to reflect. Apart from the 5 lessons and showing you how important it is for you to stay aware and take ownership of your career and not leave it in the hands of a manager or a company, that are there signs right now in your career, in your relationship, in your business or life that you have been emotionally avoiding? Because I was at a training one time, and I say this on here quite often as a result of that training, that the price is what you will pay today. So the price of ignoring that one manager that said something to you that made you think that something was going on, or you heard something in the news or something else internally from all the gossiping, maybe there's some truth to it, but you're not going to pay attention to it because they always talk. The price of that is what you paid that day by ignoring it, right? But the cost is what you pay over time. Those, unfortunately, those 17,000 employees that lost their job, that was their cost. I pray they find something else fast. But in Donald's case, he already had to cut off his phone, stop paying for his TV. And now it's only been a week or two. You pay for these things over time. So, and there's a nudge that you're feeling that it's you have to do something about something or say something as it relates to your career, as it relates to leading yourself, as it relates to people that you're leading, as it relates to your business, as it relates to your life, as it relates to your kids, whatever it is, pay attention to it. And this is why I say all the time, that's what emotions are. Emotions are signals. They're just telling you what's going on the inside, and maybe you should lean in. And again, this is not about blaming those employees. It's not about blaming, well, blame the executives and everybody over there at Spirit Airlines, because they could have done better by these employees, for sure. For sure. They saw the writing on the wall and they just decided to wait. Maybe they themselves were hoping that things would get better. Not blaming the employees, I'm blaming the leaders in that organization that just decided to not give these employees any respect at all. This it's about, and it's about reminding us, right, that emotional intelligence is not just understanding our emotions. It's being aware of what's going on around us, respond wisely to reality, to what the situation is. And when the reality is uncomfortable, mm, that's when you have to lean in, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's uncomfortable. So I wanted to share this, my thoughts on what Spirit Airlines recently did, being in a workplace, and over 17 years of HR experience here. So kind of looking at it from that HR lens and from the human lens. These people are humans. And the managers that ran these organizations were humans too. I can't even begin to tell you what they were thinking. Maybe again, like maybe they thought they had, they were waiting and hoping that things would have turned around. But Spirit Airlines has been going through a rough patch for a while. Yes, it was the executives, the leaders could have done better, but you as an employee, as a human being, we have to take ownership of our own lives, our own careers, and take responsibility and accountability, right? So that way something like this happens again, we're not catch off guard, because blind loyalty can cost you. It can cost you. So thank you so much for listening. This has been a conversation with a glimpse of growth with Dr. Dale. And actually, we're going to be back here later on today chatting with three amazing mothers. So tune in to a glimpse of growth podcast, YouTube, and thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing, and letting me know in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for staying here with me and for having this conversation. And I'll see you guys in the next one.